Cheers, buddy.
Now, unfortunately,
Cheers.
this wasn't out of a replicator. We actually had this made for us instead of coming out of blue light like it does on the Orville. We're really excited between the two of us, about as excited as two people would be, because I'm twice as excited as a normal person. Amy, maybe not so much, but today we're talking about the Orville, and it is quite honestly the first, I think, aspirational science fiction space opera on television.
Why is it aspirational?
I'll get to that.
Oh, okay, shit.
On
Sorry.
on television since Star Trek Enterprise went off the air more than 10 years ago.
Which one was the Enterprise one? Is that the one
That's
with
one with Scott Bakula. The one called Star Trek Enterprise.
I don't know,
that's
but I
Scott
love
Bakula.
his name.
Yeah, he's the guy, the quantum leap guy.
It's fantastic. Is that the people with the...
Well, the like they have pointy eyebrows.
No, they got ridges.
Ridges, like Klingons.
Yes.
Yes. Yeah, Klingons were on that show.
High five.
Yep. Klingons everywhere.
Got it.
Now, this show, the Orville, is a very sort of thinly veiled Star Trek analog. It's not the same show. It's not the Federation of Planets. It's the Union of Planets. They're not Klingons. They're Mocklins. Like, there are different names for things that you may find familiar. In fact, you may find the feeling of the show familiar.
So it's like the not licensed version,
Almost.
in a sense.
It's a bit like, it's almost like a parody.
Yeah,
but it's not making fun of it.
No, it's not.
It's just
different.
a science fiction space opera
Yeah.
that is in love with Star Trek and what Star Trek used to be.
Yeah, it's like, when you make costumes and you can't make a Barney mascot because you don't have the licensing to Barney, so you just call him Big Purple Dinosaur.
Exactly, you got it.
But you do it out of love.
Exactly, and there's so much love involved in this. And there's not just love involved, there's also expertise, because there are so many people who used to make Star Trek working on the Orville, it would blow your mind.
Now, can we talk about, who some of these people are? Let's go for the heavy hitters.
All right. Brennan Braga is one of the guys who is basically responsible for the 1980s, 90s, and 2000s of Star Trek.
And that's the golden years, would you say? Because I know a lot of people love that 70s Star Trek, right?
Yeah, I mean, 60s Star Trek and then the 70s movie Star Trek was sort of like the golden age in a way, because it's when things happened and really set everything in motion. Yeah. The thing about the original Star Trek is that it was always a lens through which we would view our world and tell a story that is different enough that you might not know where your loyalties lie. And so when you step into a Star Trek story, you'll be told a tale that will let you walk away from it and think about your life differently.
See, I don't know. For me, growing up, I mean, if anybody's seen this before, y'all will know, not a big sci-fi person. And, my mom loved Star Trek growing up, and she had me watch it a bunch of times. And
was she watching The Next Generation or the original series with Kirk?
So, no, not... Wait, maybe that
Was Patrick Stewart in it?
Yes.
So The Next Generation.
Okay. And I just remember watching it and being like, when is everybody's heads going to blow up like in Scanners? And it never happened.
That happens in Star Trek The Next Generation.
Oh,
There's an episode where a character's head fully explodes.
See, well, then why didn't she start me on that one?
We'll start you with that. We'll show you that one before we review Star Trek Discovery next week.
Oh boy, that might be a good palate cleanser.
Right?
So,
I think you'll get a kick out of it.
But that was the thing, for me, I never... That's what I was waiting for, and it never happened.
You'll like this episode I'm talking about, actually, because there's creepy crawly monsters that go into people's mouths and then take control over them, and then a head explodes. It's a big.
Why didn't the Orville start with that? I didn't hate this. Didn't like it.
But you didn't hate it.
But I didn't hate it.
Okay.
But I feel like sometimes that's worse.
Well, if it inspires no strong feelings, that can be
and that's what happened.
Yeah.
Some of the thoughts that I had, I didn't bring my notebook.
Yeah.
Because they were so mundane that I didn't write them down.
Okay. Well, the thing about the Orville in that first episode, like all pilots, there's a lot of heavy lifting.
I hate the way it started. It started the same way as which is the movie with Will Ferrell and Old School. Started the exact same way.
Oh, did it? I haven't seen Old School.
What?
Sorry.
Sorry.
Busy watching Star Trek.
How long have we been friends?
Long enough
Long time.
to not...
How am I just learning this information now?
Tell you what, I'll watch Old School. You watch the head-exploding episode of The Enterprise.
Absolutely. I'm totally down for that.
Fantastic.
Now, it starts basically with... Okay, so... Guys, if you haven't seen the Orville yet and you don't want to know how it starts, blah, 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 go somewhere else. But no, stay. Come on. It's fun. It starts with a scene where, Seth MacFarlane's character is coming home.
Ed Mercer.
And he comes home and he puts his stuff down and he goes to his space bedroom door and clicks on it and he opens the door and his wife is in there having sex with a guy. And they rip off actually from Arrested Development.
And from Love Actually.
Oh, I've never seen that. But...
How have you not seen Love Actually?
Because it has the name Love Actually in the title. Do you think I would ever see something?
But again, same opening.
God. But this thing of I blew myself. Remember that?
Oh, I blew myself.
Yeah,
yes,
see, and
yes.
they did that better on Arrested Development.
Yeah.
But she's in bed with some weird blue alien guy who ends up blowing himself.
Out of his face.
Out of his face.
Which,
which is kind of interesting.
I mean, it was a sight gag. I don't think the tone of that moment wasn't so clear.
No, and I also was that's the thing. I was oh, so we're doing Old School and stuff. Okay, and this is going to be fun.
I think what you're getting to is something very problematic about the Orville.
Uh-huh.
And it's the fact that this is a science fiction show that has all the adventure of Star Trek, but also has jokes in it.
But I find, does it?
It does, but the thing is, they don't always land.
They don't.
And certainly not in the first episode very well, but by the second episode, I was enjoying them more, and by the third episode, there's this one joke in the third episode. There's a moment where
there's some
Scott
stuff
Grimes' character,
Wait, which one is
Gordon, is driving the ship. Yeah, the redhead guy.
Yeah.
He's basically piloting the character. Yeah, a Carrot Top. So he's piloting a shuttlecraft, and there's an explosion that happens, and he says, "I'm gonna need a new pair of pants." When we land, and I think it was Palicki's character Grayson says, "Oh no, he's joking," and he says, "No, I'm not." And in that moment, it felt less like heckling comedy, less like people just getting in snipey little comments at the beginning or end of a scene, and it felt like something funny happened in the episode, and it worked. And I was very happy in that moment.
I can't think of all of it. There was a few things in it few jokes that landed with me.
Yeah.
But they were few. And every time I was oh, there's a glimmer of hope.
Yeah.
But not enough, again, though, some of the greatest shows take not one episode, not two episodes. Sometimes, they take seasons to really get to some of these things. So
and Star Trek shows, they take 2 or 3 years
to get
any good.
Yeah, and to me, at this point in time, I'm guys, I'm 96 years old. I don't have time for this shit. But
and we are in a different age of television now.
100%. You got to win people right away, and I mean, you've got great names on this, and like you said, for people who love Star Trek, and I don't know if Seth MacFarlane is a fucking genius for having timed this right before.
I think it's a wild coincidence.
Is it a wild coincidence?
It's a wild coincidence that
it's
it's happening now.
Because it's a fucking amazing coincidence, or it's the worst coincidence. We're not sure yet.
Here's the thing. Star Trek Discovery was supposed to come out in January.
Oh.
Yeah, Discovery has had a lot of problems.
Well, it's funny. They filmed this here as well.
Discovery was filmed here.
Yeah, so one of the things is that, we know a lot of people who have worked on it.
Yeah.
Which is part of why...
it'll be interesting reviewing it next week.
It's going to be interesting reviewing it next week.
So tune in.
So I'm going to watch more sci-fi.
Yeah, you'll have 5 hours of sci-fi in you.
So excited for 5 hours of sci-fi.
Right?
Yes.
Yeah, you'll like it.
Yeah.
So the thing about the Orville that's an interesting timing event is that if Star Trek had its way, if CBS had made it when they were planning to, it would have been out for 9 months by the time the Orville came out.
That's a full baby.
Absolutely. A full baby worth of Star Trek would have been out by then. But what happened was Star Trek got delayed and delayed and delayed, and there were people getting fired, and there were people with their timing not working out, and so having to leave for scheduling reasons. Star Trek had some serious problems, but hopefully it is in the event of getting it right. And if that is the case, then I'd rather have Star Trek good 9 months later than bad 9 months sooner.
The only sort of dark cloud hanging over that is the big word that we don't like is embargo.
So yeah, the reason we're not reviewing Star Trek this week is because we can't.
We're not allowed to legally.
Yeah, so we'll be able to review it as of this time tomorrow because it'll be out.
So typically with press, they allow press to review stuff in advance. Sometimes,
if it's good, they're very happy to get the good word out.
If it's not, one of the things in press we know is that when someone will not let you review it, won't give you a screener, there's an embargo on it until after it comes out, it means they don't want anybody to tell people
how crap it is,
what it's actually like.
Yeah.
Or, there's this eternal optimist in me that it's like, it's so good that they just want everyone to know how great it is on their own.
I think it's a really interesting strategy for Star Trek.
Well, we'll find out if it's interesting.
There are going to be so many people who are going to hate any new Star Trek.
Yeah, but everyone said that about it.
But there were Star Trek fans who hated The Next Generation, and there were Star Trek fans who hated Deep Space Nine. Like, there's always going to be a bunch of people who love this that don't like this new thing. But if there are enough voices that like it, then
yeah, but the problem is right off the bat, you've got to give people a voice, and by literally legally stifling those voices.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not even voices good or bad. At least that way someone's talking about it.
Yeah.
That's my issue with it. But with it, how many? It's same thing. How many people were like, immediately like, no, never, you can't.
And then it breaks every record.
And it's broken every record.
Yeah.
Why did I just censor myself?
I don't know.
That was weird.
Maybe because we're doing science fiction and it's aspirational.
Oh, maybe.
So let's get to the idea.
Aspirational idea.
The idea of aspirational. Look at the Hunger Games, or
I never saw that.
Okay, or Divergent, or all of those
never saw those.
They're or Terminator.
Oh yes,
all right. So that's dystopian, sad planet sci-fi.
Yeah.
In the future, something awful happens. Here's our challenge. Story begins. That's dystopian science fiction. What we're talking about with aspirational science fiction is 400 years from now, if mankind has managed to not Trump and Kim Jong-un ourselves into obliteration.
So it's like my original one, the Jetsons.
It's like the Jetsons.
That's what I grew up on.
The idea that we, as a species, get past this petty bullshit, this idea of money, this idea of otherness,
and
this
class,
idea of class and fear and
race
hatred. We get past all of that as humans, and we go out into the universe together. That's the aspirational aspect of this, and it's what's been missing from science fiction quite a bit.
What? And that's what Valerian gave me at the beginning again.
Yes. The beginning of Valerian
really
had that aspirational, beautiful idea that, yes, we win, we succeed, we get past this childish age we're in right now.
We're civilized enough to fucking,
right?
We all know at the end of the day, all 98% of us have the same idea. It's the 2% of us that don't.
Yeah, and they have all the money.
Right.
But
now,
the interesting thing is that there's this thing called the Fermi paradox that says, if there are so many planets out there, because there are so many stars out there, why have we not had a conversation with an alien yet? Come on.
Okay.
And so one of the main elements of why we probably haven't is that they likely kill themselves before they can. That's the sad thing. Like, there was a moment there as humans in the 70s and 80s where we were one guy's finger away from mutually assured destruction and wiping the slate clean, destroying everyone on Earth. But the Soviets and the U.S. stood down, and now we're at a time when we kind of can't do that.
Bring it back to the aspiration. This got dark real quick.
So the aspirational quality of the Orville that is so beautiful, and that hopefully the new Star Trek series has as well. Although there are elements that say maybe that's not what they're doing. But the hope is that with Star Trek and the Orville, we're entering a new time when cynicism about our future isn't cool, isn't in vogue, isn't the stylish thing to do. Looking at our future and saying, wouldn't that be great?
Well, it's almost in like I found some parts of these 3 episodes were almost in a Black Mirror kind of way. So, for example, there was, I think it was in the first episode, where it had to do with them when they became, when Seth MacFarlane's Ed Mercer, and then his ex-wife,
Grayson.
Or wife is soon to be ex-wife. We don't know. They're not getting along so well, but they still have to work together.
Yeah.
Commander Kelly Grayson. They end up becoming exhibits in a zoo.
Oh, the second episode, yeah.
Is that the second?
Yeah.
And so, and it was interesting. To me, it was a very interesting thing. But again, remember before when I texted you, I was like, I don't like fucking morality shoved down me. I don't like this thing. Now, but that was a bit interesting.
Yeah.
I found it quite interesting.
Well, and
I found it also kind of felt almost in like the market in Valerian. It felt very Valerian,
yeah.
like in that sort of way.
Well, and the thing about that episode that's so fascinating is that the very first episode of Star Trek, the pilot before the pilot, is called The Cage.
Wait. The very first episode of Star Trek ever?
The pilot that...
What year is this?
CBS, this is
1955. Oh,
I think.
Like 1922. Like,
this is back when
it was a radio show.
Yeah. Basically, the storyline of the second episode of the Orville is a callback to...
Oh, wow.
Yeah, to The Cage, which is
so
an episode where...
So you're not fucking kidding when you say that this is...
This is a modernization of a lot of really deep-cut Star Trek.
Wow.
The third episode, even more so.
No way.
Yeah, so
okay.
The Cage is a little bit what they play with in the second episode, and it's beautiful to see. And then Measure of a Man is an episode of The Next Generation, where, do you remember the character Data, the robot, the yellow guy
with the headband?
No, that's Geordi.
Oh no, he was a blue face, white face.
He was like a white face
blue
guy with blue eye, with yellow eyes.
Yeah, but he was more.
He's a robot.
He was like a mint green.
Yeah, he was sort of mint green at that point.
And he talked like this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So Data is basically on trial for whether he is property or whether he is a person. And
was he wait?
No, that's Star Wars.
No, I know, but was he like that as well? Was he property or person?
He's property. Yeah, C-3PO is property.
Sad.
A little bit, yeah, right?
So wait, is Data property or person?
Here's the thing. There was an entire trial in Measure of a Man about whether he was property or a person. And the big thing about it was that Riker and Picard were on opposite sides of the debate.
Which one's Riker?
Riker's the, like, really hunky one with the beard, and then Picard,
oh, that guy!
Yeah.
Fuck that guy!
Well, he's great, and he's actually also, he's directing episodes of the Orville as well, because he's a director. Yeah, and he directed one of the best... he's one of the best Star Trek directors, actually. He did First Contact.
He's the best.
He's great. I met him, actually. He's quite a delightful guy.
So this sounds almost like 12 Angry Men.
A little bit like 12 Angry Men, and the cool thing about that episode is that...
I'm interested now.
Well, yeah, see?
Shit!
Having all this morality, like, jammed down your throat,
no.
that's what Star Trek does. It gives you a different world to examine your world through, and the Orville is doing that well. The third episode, this most recent one,
what's it called? Think like a man or like a woman?
About a Girl.
About a Girl
was the name of the episode, and the general story is that the Moclan race, which are sort of stand-ins for the Klingons, but not exactly.
Okay, now first, wait, hang on. The guy that plays the...
Bortus?
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
He's fantastic.
Oh my god, the actor who plays Bortus is beautiful
good.
In that role.
He's so perfect.
He's so great.
He is fantastic. I mean, honestly, for me, he was my when I saw him come on screen.
Yeah,
he
Peter
was
Macon
great.
is wonderful.
Yes.
And he plays this character who belongs to a unigendered race. There is only the gender of man. And they have eggs, and they fertilize one another's eggs. It's a very entertaining and interesting exploration, something that they didn't actually do much of in Star Trek. This is really going out there into I mean, there is a really cool episode about a genderless society where Riker falls in love with...
Which is actually quite interesting, because this one couldn't be further from... This was very about
There's
gender.
There's only one gender.
There's only one.
And Bortus... Spoiler alert.
Which
Bortus...
Russian.
Yeah, it does. Bortus, when his egg hatches, his child is a girl.
Wait, and now that his partner...
Yep.
This whole thing has to be,
Okay, and to be fair, his partner, Creighton?
That's the thing. I called him Craig.
Clyden. So his partner Clyden is also a man, and so there's this really wonderful, completely taken for granted experience of two men who are mates, and they're just like, it's totally normal.
Well, no, that's
which
totally
is something
normal.
that they never really did on Star
And
Trek
that's the
all
thing
the way.
I found very interesting
Yeah.
about this, because I know they never examined that as well in Star Trek.
They examine it. They just never had a full-on I am gay character
No.
in the show. They had characters that, like, they retconned Sulu into being gay in the JJ verse.
Yeah,
and
but these
then
were not
Jadzia
main
Dax's
characters, and these were not characters that were, like, committing to, you know, having, like, stations in this show.
True, but the first lesbian kiss on network television was Star Trek Deep Space Nine.
No shit. Who was it?
Jadzia Dax, the actress who played her, Terry Farrell.
Is that the one that was the snail lady?
Yeah, she's got the little thing.
Yeah, snail lady.
All right.
Sorry, my name's, again, I told you guys. Sorry.
But you know who you're talking about.
I think
it's
I do.
Just like a strange.
And
yeah.
the other one is.
And then the other one is like a former lover of her from a past life.
What would I
so
recognize
not a popular character.
Oh.
She just like was a guest star for the day.
You know when I recognize things.
Yeah.
You know the names
I don't think you
would
would
come
know
up
her.
with. Oh.
But yeah, somehow I knew that you were talking about her. And so basically, that was the first lesbian kiss on network
so
television.
Interesting.
Yeah, well, the original
Now, did that
Star
happen
Trek.
in daytime television?
Well, it was like prime time. Because it was like 7 or 8 o'clock, yeah.
Okay.
But not like daytime.
The children were watching.
Yeah, the children were watching.
Oh,
and the children were watching in the 60s when the first interracial kiss happened.
Wow.
That was also Star Trek.
No, sorry, wait. Now, when was that lesbian kiss?
That would have been like 94.
Oh, so we're out of the satanic panic. We're out of the whole... Okay.
Yeah, it was a liberal time.
Okay, we're in a more liberal...
Clinton was
yeah.
in office.
Okay, never mind. Okay.
So, that whole idea of two main characters in the show being like straight up gay, and from our perspective as humans on Earth, we would look at two men in a relationship and be like, yeah, that's a totally normal gay relationship. But it's on television, and it's on the Orville, and it's great.
Well, but it's also very, like, they're very, like, professional.
Yeah.
And very, like, no bullshit cards on the table. They're like,
Yeah.
I need to sit on my egg for 21 days.
Yeah, the neat thing about this race is that they're not a particularly flowery, romantic-seeming group.
You know the like captain on Brooklyn Nine-Nine.
Yes.
Who never.
Oh my God, he's brilliant.
He's brilliant.
Yeah.
It's a very similar.
It's like a whole
character.
race of those people.
Yeah, basically, it's very similar to that.
He also plays that same actor plays a wonderful character on BoJack Horseman in the fourth season.
Yes.
Oh, he's great. Yes, Woodchuck.
Why have we not talked about BoJack? Anyways.
BoJack.
We'll get
Amazing
to that.
show.
Now, let's get back to the Orville. So, this episode, it's interesting because it also just the timing and all sorts of stuff.
Yeah.
This has to do with, again, I was saying, I don't like morality being shoved down my throat. And this show, I'm still confused. Like, here's the thing. I'm still confused as to what you're giving me.
Are you giving me a parody show? Are you giving me a comedy
a sitcom?
show? Yeah.
But you're also, like, what are you giving me? And the funny thing is this is Seth MacFarlane, and I think the minute the people hear the name Seth MacFarlane, they expect something else.
Yep.
It's not animated. But
Nope.
the last episode about a girl, is that what it's called?
Yep.
Has a lot to do with, like, basically with gender identity and female genital mutilation.
Almost, basically, yeah. It's
And
a great
about
analog
male
for that.
genital mutilation. It has to do with a lot of this stuff, which is like
It is a heavy topic.
Also, for a third episode of a show, that's like we don't know what's happening.
Yeah. Don't know what's happening.
Don't know.
And
what's
so
happening.
it's one of those things where you're only 3 hours into knowing these characters.
Yeah, so it's kind of.
And man, I've got to say, there are movies that I've watched for 3 hours and not been this invested in the characters. And so it was amazing to see these characters that I'd known for 3 weeks at this point go through some really heavy stuff. And the thing about Measure of a Man is that at the end of the episode,
See, I guess I have to
they
see this
decide
episode.
that Data is a person.
Is he?
And you're like,
You know
great.
what? Good.
Despite some of the most beautiful arguments that Riker puts together, and it
Oh,
breaks his
see?
heart doing it because it's his job, but he doesn't want to.
Okay, but what happens after the fact? Is it awkward between them?
No, they're buds after that.
Really?
But, I mean, he's doing his duty, but the amazing, yeah, he's doing his duty. But the thing about this episode of the Orville is that you think the whole time that you know what the Star Trek ending is going to be, the happy ending, and the Orville gives you the fucking tragic ending.
Yeah,
and not like the everyone's life is destroyed ending, but the oh my god, that's dark.
It's like a
ending.
Thinking Man's ending.
Yeah,
it's like it's a thinker. It's to be honest, I was like, all right, I'm just gonna fucking, okay. I'd had a couple of cookies and stuff at that point, and I was like, fuck it, let's just put this stuff on and we'll see what happens, because I was thinking I'm not gonna be interested anyways, but. That part got me actually, like, it got me it got me thinking a lot, and it had me thinking so much when I watched the second episode. So I watched the first one prior to the cookies. Yeah. And then I watched the second one while I was eating them. And then I stopped and I slept on that one. Yeah. And then I watched the third one in the morning, actually, before I even went to work. So we're talking like 4:30 in the morning. Yeah. It's crazy. But, and that one was also quite heavy. So what the thing is for me is I know someone like Seth MacFarlane is no dummy. So I know there's a very deliberate pacing that's happening here. And there's a very deliberate reveal and unfolding of these characters and of these stories. And I'm the person that's always trying to guess. Oh my God, what is it going to be? I'm trying to be 2 steps ahead. And it's hard for me because this is sci-fi, but I can only feel like it's going to get better. It's going to get more intense, and it's going to get, like, it's not just going to be to me like a, oh boy, here we go. So guys, listen, when I watched Star Trek growing up, it felt very hollow. Okay. It felt like, it started to feel like people going through the motions, almost in the same way as A Days of Our Lives. In a sense of...
Well, when you do 7 years of a show, 22 to 24 episodes a year, I could see how that...
Days of Our Lives has still been going. Yeah? I don't watch Days of Our Lives, but I know that it's still going. But it starts to feel a bit formulaic, and it starts to feel like very hollow in the sense of, okay, we're on the ship, and this guy comes here, and that guy's purple, and then we shoot, and then we do this, and then the thing shakes, and then blah, blah, blah.
Very few episodes of Star Trek or The Next Generation ever had something happen that affected the next episode. It was often the same 7 people show up at the beginning of the episode like any other. And the thing about the Orville is that it exists at a time when TV shows can't do that. We live in a time when...
Movies can barely do that.
Yeah. Oh, no.
Look at the Star Wars movie. They're so invested.
Yeah, you need to have characters exist in a time when they could die, when things could change, when in an hour, life will be different. When, the main character of an HBO show gets his head cut off in episode 7, you are going to make a whole new world when you make the next season.
Well, and if someone says, oh my God, this crazy thing happens, you have to start watching this show, you got to start at the very beginning. I'm like, yo, that's like 7 seasons ago. And they're like, yeah, well, you got no choice. That's the thing, and that's how hard.
Well, the Orville, I find, is walking a really great line so far of having a single 1-hour adventure that doesn't feel like it has no stakes, because the things that happened in episode 2 informed episode 3, but weren't necessarily
attached.
They weren't prerequisite. You didn't have to watch episode 2 in order to enjoy episode 3. They did enough, like, recapping at the beginning without feeling awkward, that you could watch the first episode, or the second episode, or the third episode, and have a pretty good experience. In fact, the first episode's probably the weakest of the bunch.
I was actually, and I was going to say, here's the thing. I watched the 3 episodes because you had said we're going to review 2 or 3. Yeah. And I knew you were so stoked on it. I was like, he's fucking talking about 3. Yeah. So I watched all 3. But for me, it has gotten my attention more than I thought, because I just thought I literally would have been about 10 minutes in and gone.
Just lost your interest.
And like left. I mean, I left my own apartment. Like,
yeah, I've seen you walk out of a movie theater
and just go play paintball and drink beers.
We were watching a Guillermo del Toro movie, and she was like, "You know what? Meet me at the bar. I'm out of here."
It was your birthday, and I left.
You left during that movie too.
Yeah, I did.
Yeah,
I did.
She just leaves sometimes.
If I don't like it, because I know there's a bar and there's a, whatever. So, but for this, there was times and I was watching it and I was like, well, I really wish I'm probably going to be drinking tequila when I review it. I should probably be drinking tequila. Why don't I have tequila now? You know what I could do? I could play bunny bowling. So. And
then you just leave.
But then something would happen in the show and I would hear this. By the way, the score is actually quite interesting.
It is a beautiful score.
By the way, I wanted to bring that up because that was actually the thing that brought me back. I was literally walking off of my couch, walking out of the room over to here to where the fridge is to go pick up the bunny bowling set.
Yeah.
And I heard this, like this beautiful swell of strings and all this. And not in a cheesy, hokey, very dated sort of...
But in the right way.
In the right way, and I was like, well, okay. You listen. A cheap way to my heart is a score.
Is the right music.
It's the right music. I got to tell you. Well, I mean that's the way to anybody's heart.
And one of the things I love about the Orville is that they have brought, and I think this was something Seth MacFarlane was very specific about. They are playing in that legacy of beautiful orchestral scores.
It's very, actually, it's quite lovely. I've got a question for you. Now, I hope you know the answer.
Uh-oh.
As far as the effects go, and some of the makeup is fantastic.
Yeah.
Is this practicals?
Almost everything's practical. Norm Macdonald's character is the only one that's
Wait. Norm Macdonald is on this show?
Yeah, Norm Macdonald plays this glob of...
I know who... Oh my god, that's him! Oh,
that's him.
That's right! I was like, I know that voice!
Norm Macdonald plays like a glob of mucus,
and he's trying to pick up this chick.
With some kind of, and mucus
she's like,
penis?
Listen, well, I think at that point, because I had been eating, anyways, I was doing one of those, eyes are closed, listening to the movie thing at that point. But I remember her saying something about, our species don't mix that way.
Yeah.
And he was like, what are you talking about? It's okay. But I knew that voice, and that was him. Oh, but I saw him at first, and he was like a yellow kind of globule thing with a mouth.
Yeah, basically.
Now, that's CGI, clearly.
Yeah, that's the only CGI character.
Do you know who's doing the
makeup?
effects?
No. That I don't know. I couldn't tell you who did the makeup on any Star Trek thing ever, because that's just never really been my thing. You're
talking about 17 million generations.
Yeah.
But I will say that a lot of this is actually quite impressive.
It's great.
They have somebody very good.
There have been very few moments. There's one, on Bortus's nose, there are a few spots down here where I'm like, I can see the seam of the latex, but it's for the most part. And Bortus has full body silicone all over him. It's and latex. It's an amazing bodysuit.
When you saw that, was that the pilot?
I don't know. No, it was in the third episode actually.
Okay.
But the full body makeup on some of these actors is just incredible.
Yeah, I gotta say, even when that guy in the first episode, when he blew himself, I mean, it was a funny, silly sight gag, and it looked. I mean. But it worked.
It worked. It was a practical
It was really
thing.
funny, and it worked. It felt a bit trauma, which I love.
Yeah.
So you had me with that. But I do appreciate that, and I don't, we're probably going to watch more of this.
I'm going to watch the entire season of this show.
I'm
really enjoying it.
I'm going to watch
Another one? See what you
I'm going to watch it. I will.
Cool. John Favreau directed the first
episode. That's right. And John Favreau, who also was part of Old School.
Yeah, okay.
By the way. And he's done lots of films. He did Maid. He did...
Iron Man 1 and 2.
That's right. He did one recently that I saw that was very annoying about food trucks. And I was
Chef.
What the fuck was that?
He also did... Cowboys versus Aliens, which is just the worst.
Oh, no. And then they had Zombies versus Strippers, which was later.
Oh, probably
but
better.
He's not involved.
No, probably better than
that was
Cowboys
the
Aliens.
Sanny of the Sony.
Oh, gotcha.
And that had Robert Englund. Anyways, we're getting off topic there.
But there's some really top talent involved in making this show, and I think there's a great mix of freshness because you've got people like Seth MacFarlane who has never made a space opera before, and then you've got people like Brendan Braga who directed About a Girl.
He is Seth MacFarlane's.
I mean, he made
American
Cosmos.
Dad.
Yep.
And that's partially sort of he's got like.
Well, there's an alien in there.
Yeah.
But it's not a space opera though.
No. It's not a space opera. It's not. There's not a whole lot of space operas.
You'd be surprised. I could name you a lot of space operas.
Do you consider The Apple a space opera?
The Apple? What are you even talking about?
You've never seen The Apple. Oh, whoa!
Is this a movie or a TV show?
Yeah, it's a movie.
Okay, space operas are usually TV series.
Wow, this is...
But maybe.
Okay, this is a whole other conversation.
Okay.
Now, for me, see, with things like this, you get a very interesting contrast because you get someone like me who is a horror person who knows nothing about sci-fi and whose attention span to sci-fi is pretty minimal, and then you get someone like Matt
where within about I'd say 8 seconds of any episode of Star Trek The Next Generation or Deep Space Nine, I could tell you the name and season of the episode.
Holy fuck.
Like the title of the episode I could tell you.
And when it comes to horror, it's reversed.
Yeah,
for
that's
us.
all you.
So for you guys, like, I hope it's interesting for you to hear from someone who knows jack shit about nothing about sci-fi, but as someone walking into it blind, and especially for those of you who are writers and directors and special effects artists and score creators, like, I hope it's interesting to you as like a weird sort of like market research sort of experiment.
I mean, you've totally bought into the music of it, and you love the makeup of it.
And 100.
It's interesting that those two things are able to give you an in to something that you otherwise wouldn't necessarily sit down to watch.
For sure, and that the morality of it, while I hate it, are the things that actually I have found the most interesting. I found Rihanna's story of being a refugee in Valeria, and I found very interesting. In this, I found the zoo being, captive zoo animals very interesting. I found this whole thing about changing genders and being, and genital mutilation I found quite interesting. The question is, did I like the Orville?
Yeah, if you had to like give it a very simple one of these for the Orville, what would it be? So you'd invent a third option. All right. Well, for me, the Orville is this all the way because it is everything that Star Trek used to be, plus this interesting comedy that I think is finding its place more and more in every episode. I'm curious what it'll be like by the end of the season, and I'm curious, fingers crossed, if it gets more seasons, what it'll be like by second or third season, because it will find its place. It'll get into its groove.
That's what I'm hoping.
Because this is a show not being written by comedians. Seth MacFarlane is not writing every episode of this. Brendan Braga is writing episodes of this show. There are Star Trek writers writing episodes of this show, and there are comedic punch-ups happening because someone like Braga isn't necessarily a comedy guy first. He's a science fiction guy first. He's a story guy first. And so it'll be interesting to see how those things eventually gel in a writer's room and in the show moving forward.
For me, I feel like it has more chances of going someone better than worse. But I find for me one of the most annoying things. I'm someone who is either very I have no middle ground. I have very little middle ground. It's hard for me to be like, I have no feelings about this, or I don't know if I have an opinion.
Yeah.
I don't have one.
You don't have an opinion?
I don't think so. Well, it's not that I don't have an opinion, but it's not strong.
It's not a strong opinion. So
and
you're
that's
not. It's
problematic for me.
It's not evoking something really big in you.
No, and the thing is that in a show like this, in the timing that it's at, with the people that are the players involved, the whole thing is to invoke a reaction, of course. So,
So it may evoke a reaction in you.
So maybe,
it may not.
You know what? You know what? Well, let's see. Okay, for anybody that's watching, when you guys watch these first 3 episodes, or if you have, if you think should we continue? If you think we should continue to review these shows
in bulk, really, like maybe we could do a batch every 3 or every 8, or maybe by the end of the season.
No, don't get so not so 8.
Let's say by the end of the season.
No, let's say we can do 3 at a time.
No, we both watched the whole season of The Orville.
Yo, I cannot watch the whole fucking season of something and be like, I fucking hated it. Okay,
we've already got one person saying yes. Dave Warner says yes.
Dave Warner says so. Wait, yes, we should do more.
Do
more. Okay, Dave Warner, it's your lucky day. So we will do 3 more episodes. So we'll do them in a bulk.
Okay.
Do you want to do that?
Let's do that.
Well, we don't even know how many episodes will be in a season.
Here's the thing. Assuming this show continues on Fox has a terrible, terrible, terrible track record.
Fox has a terrible track record?
They have a terrible track record, especially with the best science fiction series of all time. Like, arguably, people are going to argue with me for sure about this, but one of the best science fiction series of all time is called Firefly. And it was a Fox show, and it is a kind of beautiful that very few things
that hand
ever
is
are.
Moving. He's doing the slow star swipe.
And Fox canned that shit before season 1 was even over. Because Fox, historically, has goddamn terrible taste. So hopefully, The Orville will attract enough of an audience where people will be giving enough of a shit. I mean, I'm buying episodes on iTunes. I'm watching them.
I did it too.
I'm pulling down this stuff because Firefly, Dollhouse, yes, Dollhouse as well. I didn't love the Sarah Connor Chronicles, but there are people who absolutely did, and they canceled that as well. And I feel like, oh, what's this? I like when you two discuss content. You're funny and smart, and you give great context. You disagree a lot, which is enjoyable. Thank you very much, Melissa.
So I gotta admit, I never saw Firefly or Dollhouse, but I knew those arms were gonna go up. I knew that posturing was gonna happen, but it's not. We can't. I can't do it.
It's okay. Now's your chance. Now's your chance to see a great. Maybe great isn't the right word, but now's the time to see a science fiction show on Fox that, if they do right by, The Orville could become great.
You know what's so funny? On my way here, I sent you a text that went horribly wrong.
Yep.
I tried to say I'll be there shortly, and it said I'll be there abortly. Why my phone texts that as autocorrect, I have no idea. Anyways, I didn't hear back from Matt, shockingly. So I stopped and had a drink on the way.
Okay.
And I was in a bar, and I heard some guys at the actual bar, talking about The Orville.
Really?
And I was listening in to what they were saying, and they were basically just saying it was very, very exciting, and they really loved it. Then they also said, though, that they loved the Dark Tower. So I was like, check, please, I gotta go.
Yeah, okay.
I gotta get out of here.
Very questionable.
But people are talking about The Orville.
Yeah.
They are definitely talking about The Orville. It's interesting to hear that they're talking about The Orville on the time when Star Trek is premiering.
Yeah.
There are Star Trek ads everywhere. I've not seen it. To be honest, I didn't know about The Orville until you told me.
Yeah, The Orville's been pushed heavily in the States, and it started as it was like a Sunday night football intro. The first 2 weeks.
It feels like it is the last thing that would be on a Sunday night football.
I know, it's weird. It's been a
That's
Sunday
God's
night
day. Okay.
Well, it's been a Sunday night thing where the first 2 episodes screened on Sunday nights, and then the third episode.
Crowd.
I know, but somehow it seems to be working because there are thousands of people talking about this show on Twitter. Seth MacFarlane does a great job every. It used to be Sunday, but now Thursday.
So
every
now it's Thursday.
Now it's Thursdays.
See, they figured it out. They were like, nobody cares.
Well, and Star Trek is going to be on Sundays, so I think they knew exactly what they were doing. Land on Sunday.
Yo, that shit is very fucking smart. I didn't know that.
Yeah, they did Sunday, only 2 Sundays that were not Star Trek Sundays, and then switched to Thursdays.
That is like PR genius. Whoever did that is very, very
good job, Fox. And I didn't think I would ever say that.
Never thought, oh my God. I've never thought I would ever hear you say those words.
Right? Because Fox just kills my favorite things.
That just freaked me out.
Yeah, now I'm excited because they said yes to The Orville, B, supported the Orville, and C, moved it to a great time slot. And I think this is a show.
You just said Fox Network in like
Fox.
a positive.
Yeah.
It's so weird.
It's a weird time.
Yeah, remember when Matt and I saw Donald Trump become president at the same time? We never thought
it's
that was
just,
going to happen.
Mind-boggling.
So wow, it's a wild time.
It's been a weird year.
It's been a weird year. So listen,
but more stuff this year that's going to be very exciting. Next week we're going to be talking about Star Trek Discovery.
It might be exciting.
It's either way, it's exciting. Like Star Trek on the air.
Either way for him, it's exciting.
The thing is, if it is aspirational, because Star Trek is the best us. And that's the thing that makes Star Trek important. It's the best us. And if it continues... Yes, Derek is saying it's on City TV here in Canada. Absolutely. It's also on the City TV app. The Orville. Oh. It's on the City TV app in Canada. So if you download the app, you can watch it. There's commercials on the app. But you don't need cable, which is great because nobody wants cable.
Thank you, Derek.
But Star Trek is our best... Earth. It's our best us. It's something that we can hope one day we become.
Scanners is our best.
Right?
Scanners is our best Earth.
Well, for some of us. But I feel like if Star Trek manages to do that, if it manages to have the heart of Gene Roddenberry in it in Discovery.
I will give you this. That guy had he was magical.
Who?
Gene Roddenberry.
Gene Roddenberry? My God. Oh, Gene Roddenberry's stuff is so wonderful.
Beautiful.
Yeah. So if Star Trek Discovery manages to keep Roddenberry's heart at its heart, then I think we could have a great show. And by this time next week, you and I will be talking about it. So we will see.
How many episodes of this shit do I have to watch?
We'll watch just the one Star Trek Discovery.
Wait,
whatever the pilot is, it could be 2 hours long. I don't know.
Fucking hell, dude!
But, we'll figure that out by next week.
Up top?
Up top, Star Trek.